Alexander the Great's military strategies during his campaigns in the East were characterized by innovative tactics, adaptability, and a keen understanding of both terrain and enemy psychology. His conquests of the Persian Empire and beyond showcased not only his prowess as a commander but also his ability to integrate various military practices from the diverse cultures he encountered. These strategies fundamentally changed the nature of warfare in the ancient world and left a lasting legacy on military thought and practice. The foundation of Alexander's military strategy. Unified command structure. Alexander's military success can be attributed in part to the unified command structure he maintained. Unlike many of his predecessors, who often relied on a loose coalition of allies with varying agendas, Alexander ensured that his army operated under a single command. This allowed for swift decision-making and the execution of coordinated strategies on the battlefield. Highly trained troops. The Macedonian army, with its disciplined soldiers and elite units, was a formidable fighting force. Alexander inherited a well-trained military from his father, King Philip II, who had developed the Macedonian phalanx into a highly effective formation. Alexander built upon this foundation, enhancing training and discipline among his troops, which proved vital in the heat of battle. Innovative use of the phalanx. The Macedonian phalanx, with its long pikes, sarissas, formed the backbone of Alexander's infantry strategy. He employed the phalanx in a flexible manner, allowing it to adapt to various battlefield conditions. This formation provided a strong defensive front while enabling rapid offensive movements when needed. Alexander often positioned the phalanx at the center of his formations, using it to anchor his lines while coordinating flanking maneuvers with cavalry and light infantry. Tactical innovations in the East. Combined arms tactics. One of Alexander's most significant innovations was his use of combined arms tactics, integrating different types of troops into cohesive units. This strategy involved coordinating heavy infantry, the phalanx, light infantry, archers, and cavalry to create a versatile and dynamic force capable of responding to diverse threats. For example, in the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander used his cavalry to execute flanking maneuvers while his phalanx engaged the Persian infantry head-on. This flexibility allowed him to exploit weaknesses in enemy formations effectively. Mobility and speed. Alexander understood the importance of mobility in warfare, especially in the varied terrains of the East. He often employed rapid movement and surprise attacks to catch his enemies off guard. His ability to cover long distances quickly and engage the enemy before they could organize their defenses was a hallmark of his strategy. For instance, during the Siege of Tyre, Alexander's construction of a causeway allowed him to quickly position his troops and siege equipment, facilitating a swift assault on the city. Psychological warfare. Alexander was adept at using psychological warfare to demoralize his opponents. His reputation as an undefeated general preceded him, creating a sense of fear among enemy commanders. He often employed tactics that showcased his boldness, such as leading charges at the front lines, which not only inspired his troops but also instilled doubt in the minds of his adversaries. The swift and decisive nature of his victories contributed to this psychological advantage, as many enemies chose to surrender rather than face the wrath of Alexander's forces. Adapting to Eastern challenges. Incorporating local tactics. As Alexander moved deeper into Eastern territories, he encountered different military practices and adapted his strategies accordingly. For example, in India, he faced war elephants, which presented a unique challenge. Learning from his encounters, Alexander devised strategies to counter these formidable beasts. At the Battle of the Hydaspes, he used light infantry and archers to target the mahouts, elephant drivers, to create chaos among the Indian forces, demonstrating his ability to adjust his tactics to suit the battlefield dynamics. Utilizing local knowledge. Alexander recognized the importance of local knowledge in unfamiliar territories. He often employed scouts and local guides to gather intelligence on enemy movements, terrain, and logistics. This information proved invaluable in planning his campaigns and executing successful maneuvers. By leveraging local expertise, he was able to navigate challenging landscapes and anticipate enemy strategies, enhancing his overall effectiveness in battle. The role of logistics in military strategy. Supply lines and infrastructure. One of the critical aspects of Alexander's military strategy was the establishment and maintenance of efficient supply lines. His ability to ensure that his troops were well-fed and equipped was vital for sustaining long campaigns. He understood that logistical support was as important as tactical prowess, and he often made logistical considerations a priority in his planning. Siege warfare techniques. Alexander also excelled in siege warfare, employing innovative techniques to overcome fortified cities. The Siege of Tyre is a prime example, where he constructed a causeway to breach the city's defenses. His understanding of siege machinery, including siege towers and battering rams, allowed him to adapt to various fortifications and successfully capture key cities. Cultural and military synthesis. Cultural integration. Alexander's campaigns facilitated a synthesis of military practices between Greek and Eastern forces. As he conquered Persian and Central Asian territories, he incorporated local troops into his army, utilizing their knowledge of regional warfare and tactics. This blending of forces led to a more versatile and adaptable military structure. Legacy of military adaptation. The military strategies employed by Alexander would influence future leaders, including those in the Hellenistic successor kingdoms that followed his death. These leaders adopted his principles of combined arms, psychological warfare, and logistical planning, shaping the military landscape of the ancient world. The Roman military, in particular, would later draw upon Alexander's strategies, incorporating them into their own tactics and campaigns. Alexander's military strategies were not merely about brute force. They encompassed a wide range of tactical innovations that demonstrated his deep understanding of warfare and leadership. Here are some specific tactics that he employed during his campaigns in the East. Terrain utilization. Alexander was a master of using the terrain to his advantage. His campaigns took him through various landscapes, including mountains, deserts, and river valleys. He carefully assessed the battlefield before engaging in combat, positioning his troops to exploit natural features. For instance, at the Battle of Granicus, he utilized the river's banks to limit the Persian cavalry's mobility, allowing his infantry to dominate the engagement. Feigned retreats. One of Alexander's most effective tactics was the feigned retreat, which he successfully employed in several battles. This maneuver involved pretending to withdraw, luring the enemy into a vulnerable position, and then counterattacking. At the Battle of Gaugamela, he used this tactic to draw Darius's forces out of formation, creating an opening for a decisive strike that led to victory. Night attacks. Alexander was unafraid to engage in bold and unconventional tactics, such as launching night attacks. The element of surprise was a key factor in these operations, disorienting the enemy and providing Alexander's forces with the advantage. By using the cover of darkness, he could bypass enemy fortifications and catch them unprepared. Adaptation of siege warfare. Throughout his campaigns, Alexander adapted siege techniques to the specific fortifications he faced. He employed engineers to develop siege machinery tailored to the structures of each city. During the Siege of Tyre, his construction of a causeway was a remarkable engineering feat that allowed him to bring his forces to the city walls, demonstrating his ability to adapt traditional siege tactics to a unique situation. Political and diplomatic strategies. Respect for local customs. In addition to military strategies, Alexander understood the importance of politics and diplomacy. He respected local customs and traditions, often adopting elements of Persian governance. This approach helped him gain the loyalty of conquered peoples and reduced the likelihood of rebellion. By presenting himself as a legitimate ruler rather than a conqueror, he fostered goodwill among the local populations. Cultural diplomacy. Alexander actively promoted the integration of cultures within his empire. He encouraged intermarriage between his soldiers and local women, including his own marriage to Roxana, a Bactrian princess. This cultural diplomacy helped create a new social order that blended Greek and Eastern traditions, reinforcing his authority and solidifying his rule. Use of satraps. After conquering Persia, Alexander retained many of the existing satraps, or provincial governors, in their positions. This decision allowed for continuity in governance and administration, as these local leaders were familiar with the region's customs and politics. By maintaining local leadership, Alexander could effectively manage the vast territories he had conquered while ensuring a degree of stability and order. The psychological aspects of warfare. Creating an image of invincibility, Alexander was keenly aware of the psychological dimensions of warfare. He cultivated an image of invincibility, emphasizing his undefeated record and charismatic leadership. This reputation had a profound impact on his enemies, often causing them to surrender without a fight or to engage in poorly coordinated attempts to resist his advance. Demoralization of the enemy. Alexander's swift victories and his ability to adapt to different combat situations contributed to the demoralization of his adversaries. The speed at which he moved his army and the decisiveness of his victories instilled fear in his opponents. This psychological warfare was as effective as his military tactics, often leading to the collapse of enemy morale before battles even began. Leveraging defeats.